Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we greatly appreciate you. Today is February 20th, 2023. Happy Mardi Gras for those of you celebrating the festivities today. But since we are a baseball podcast, we are 38 days away from Cardinals opening day and only 5 days away from Cardinals baseball as the Cardinals take on the Nationals on Saturday.
And I want to know why you hate Miles Michaelis.
I don't hate Miles Michaelis. Why?
Because you had a chance on the 39th, 39 days away to post him, and you chose to go a different route.
I mean, if we're okay, I understand that. But if we're going to be honest here, I'm going to take the Mad Hungarian every single time over Miles Michaelis.
Nope, not me.
Evidently. Al, we apologize, buddy. Al, we apologize.
That was the only player Chris Rock could name when he came to a Cardinal game last year, was surprisingly Al Raboski. I don't know how that was.
Chris Rock?
Yeah. They interviewed him, and he was like, my favorite player was Al Raboski. I think he just heard the name somewhere. There's no way. There's no way that Chris Rock growing up during a time where Ozzie Smith and William McGee were running wild, and he gravitated towards the Mad Hungarian. There's no way. There's no way.
Today is Todd Worrell Day. Todd Worrell Days till opening day. But spring training starting today. Tyler O'Neill's getting the reps in center field today. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that kind of goes in with the conversation we're having today, doesn't it?
It does seem to fit. See what I was trying to do there? I was trying to throw you throw you the lob ball for after last night's NBA All-Star game where they almost scored 200 points. That was my old alley-oop to you.
The NBA, well, I don't want to get into the NBA All-Star game. Anyway, yeah, I hate Tyler O'Neill playing center field personally. Like, I put Lars Nootbaar out there. I don't want him to get any extra stress on his legs. That's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. Like it was an intriguing thing last year when he comes back from a leg injury to put him in center field and have him stealing bases. But again, that is his skill set. So you can't just limit the guy. Otherwise, you are really just limiting what he can do. You can
limit him to left field.
Yeah, I agree with that. Unless there's another plan there that we just do not know about. But
but how does this end?
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I didn't really have anything.
We are doing this profile is on Dylan Carlson. Okay, so how does it seem? I don't.
First of all, can we stop? I love your third grade thesis statements.
Let me say what I'm going to say.
Like there could have been a creative lead-in.
Can you shut up,
Carlson? And instead, it's like
there's no lead-in.
You were never that kid that said, my essay is today I'm going to talk about. That's what.
No,
I'm saying. When you do that.
There's no lead-in when it's on the fucking title. The lead-in is clicking on the title. Anyway, Dylan Carlson, I could be completely off on this. You know, last year he was one of the most marketed players outside of Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, and probably Waino and Pujols. But in terms of the young outfielders, he was the guy. Like they were marketing him even more so, I think, than Tyler O'Neill, who was coming off an MVP caliber season. I've seen nothing about Dylan Carlson. I think it almost seems like they're phasing him out. And I could be wrong, but that's the gut feeling I'm starting to get, is that they're starting to move on from Dylan Carlson, and I don't like it.
At 23 years old, that seems weird to me. I mean, you're talking about a first-round pick.
24.
Was he a top 10 prospect in the MLB for a while? Or
he was around 15.
15. I know he's a Cardinals.
He's 24. He's not 23.
24. It's maybe there's a reason to it. Maybe they thought the pressure was too much, so maybe not saying anything is saying just what you need to say. I don't know. I don't like the idea. I hate when people say can't handle the pressure. Dude, these guys are professional athletes. Like, let's just stop. They got there by handling the pressure every single day. So I don't know that answer. And maybe it's just one of those things where they wanted to lift Jordan Walker up and Lars Nootbaar up and just let Dylan come in and be Dylan Carlson. Let him get back to doing what he can do.
If you had to just guess right now where the pecking order of preference in the outfield is, wouldn't you list Dylan Carlson fourth from the Cardinals' perspective?
No, I'd still put him.
I mean, third. You would. No, you would. Because you would put Lars Nootbaar ahead of him. There's no question about that. You'd put Jordan Walker ahead of him. You'd put Jordan Walker ahead of him. There's no question about that. And you would put Tyler O'Neill ahead of him because you know what he can do. Jordan Walker is ahead of Dylan Carlson on the pecking order in the Cardinals' mind. There's no question about that.
So you think it's his spot to lose? And we talked about this last time. And obviously, we're going to get to Jordan next podcast. Spoiler alert. But I
think
don't know, man. I don't know that answer because
I
you're
think
right.
Jordan
It
Walker,
has been very quiet on the Dylan
yeah,
Carlson front.
I think Jordan Walker is going to be playing outfield when he's up, which we'll talk about. Like you said, they're not going to bring up a 20-year-old prospect to DH. So I think he's going to be up and playing outfield. And from everything I've heard, Tyler O'Neill and Lars Nootbaar basically have spots.
Yeah,
There's one guy they haven't been talking about.
Which is odd to me if that is the case. Why they didn't seek actively to trade him, and maybe they did, but
there were
from
rumors
all
they tried to trade him to
they are
Oakland.
they were not looking.
That's not true. They tried to trade him to Oakland. They tried to trade him to Oakland for Sean Murphy.
That's true. That is true. You're right. I forgot about that.
They wouldn't trade Walker or Nootbaar. They tried to trade Dylan Carlson.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't tell you where they stand on him. I'm not sure what does.
Yeah, what you said, he's only, like you said, 24. Obviously last year the thumb injury had a massive impact on the last half of his season. But if you look, he was still a league average hitter. But the year before, way above league average as a 22-year-old. We know that the talent is there. We know that he can play an elite center field. That's why they traded Harrison Bader, because of Dylan Carlson. I mean, let's not forget that. And that's only 8 months ago? No, I'm bad at math, but you know where I'm. Yeah, no, that's probably right. 8 months ago. So they can't. I don't see how he could have faltered that much after coming back from a thumb injury. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I'm not saying I agree with it, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Like, this is just perception. Maybe there was an asserted effort to not, put as much pressure on him. I don't know, or maybe they just don't have as much to say about Carlson because they think they know who he is. Yeah, I don't know. I still like Dylan Carlson. I think a lot of it is prospect fatigue. You have a guy that was, coming up, and they said, you're gonna have to pry him from my cold, dead hands, is what Mo said, to trade him. And that's a stupid thing to say anyway. Hopefully he learned his lesson from that. But he said that about him. He comes up 2020, he's okay. 2021, he was really good, I thought. Especially in the second half, he was great. And then last year he just wasn't very good, but there's reasons for that, we think, injury-wise. But it just does seem like he's the one. Like, I've heard a lot about O'Neill. I've heard a lot about Walker. I've heard a lot about Nootbaar. Carlson, I haven't really. There's been nothing said about him. I don't know what he was even up to this offseason. Like, we know that Tyler O'Neill is working on flexibility. We know that Jordan Walker is just a phenom that they love. And we know that Lars Nootbaar was working in the lab trying to get his exit velo up even more. What was Dylan Carlson doing? We have heard nothing about him.
Yeah, that is a really, really good point. One that I hadn't thought of. And I think it's because I heard about so many other people so often that you sort of forget about him. But I just, again, he's 24. He's not, we know that the skill set is there. I don't know if the power is ever going to be there for Dylan Carlson at the big leagues.
He had 18 home runs as a rookie.
I know Jim Edmonds has talked about how he thinks it can be, how he can be a home run guy in the future. I don't know if it's there. Again, you have said this before, and he needs to add muscle. He needs to put on some muscle. Like,
he needs to hit the ball harder.
Yeah, yes.
Like, I don't even care if he looks big. He hit the ball harder, and more of it's his swing. See, I'm not a professional, at all, and I'm not even close to the level of his dad, who's a very acclaimed high school coach in Southern California. But what I will say is there are a lot of times where you're watching Dylan Carlson, and you're like, why the hell is he swinging like he's playing blitzball? Like, he'll swing with one hand. Right. It's like, I don't know what it is. I think it's approach more than anything. Maybe it's mental. I don't know. I still have a lot of belief in Dylan Carlson, mainly because we saw his worst last year. Still a well above average big leaguer, still an average hitter and a plus outfielder with one of the best arms in the system. Like, if that's your 9 hitter or your 8 hitter with Tommy Edman, and that's his floor, we believe, is to be average offensively and well above average defensively, that's a valuable baseball player. That's Harrison Bader.
Absolutely.
That's Harrison Bader, right?
I don't think that at this point now they're ready to move on from Dylan Carlson by any stretch. Maybe they feel as an organization he needs to be pushed to have a little more competition. Like, that does drive guys sometimes. And, when you trade Bader and move him to center, sometimes maybe guys get complacent. I'm not saying Dylan Carlson. That's not me saying that. I am saying that sometimes I think the competition, the cream rises to the top. That's what you got to see.
And especially and there's nothing I could be completely wrong. And maybe I just wish they would come out and talk about it. Like, not that they owe me anything, but I want to know what he's up to. I want to know if you told him to do certain things in the offseason and if he's accomplished those things. We know Nolan Gorman did what they asked because they've come out and said that about him. We don't know what they wanted Carlson to work on. We don't know if he worked on it. All we really know is that he was hampered by injuries when he was really struggling last year. That's all we really know. But does that really the reason that he has a career sub 700 OPS against right-handed pitching? Because he was injured for half a season? Right. What is he doing to address that? Because he cannot be an everyday player if you are worse against the side that you're going to be facing 80% of the time.
Right. No, that's a good point. Well, yeah, that's a really, really good point. And like I said, maybe this is all by design. I mean, we do know that the Cardinals keep some things close to the vest, and it does anger fans, and it does make them angry.
Close to the vest.
And it does, yeah. Well, they don't, but they do keep a lot of things close to the vest, and it could be one of those things where not talking about Dylan Carlson is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have reasons for it. They're very calculated, obviously. I'm just going to go off of my opinion because I don't know what they think. I can't get in their heads. I think Dylan Carlson could still be a 15 to 20% above league average hitter. I don't think that's his ceiling, but I think that's a realistic expectation for him while playing well above average defense in center field. I'm not going to say Gold Glove because he's not Michael Harris, but he's very, very good. And being a good base runner and playing well, like he's a guy that plays well with very fundamentally sound. That's what I wanted to say. He's a very fundamentally sound baseball player. He's just got to get better from the left side, or it's he's going to be a platoon bat.
Right.
Like you can't.
Well,
and at that point, he almost has more value on the trade market.
You brought this up last time about the possible platoon situation of Ian Lars, which maybe that is something that they're looking at. And maybe it's not Dylan in center field. Again, we don't know. That's the problem. I don't believe that they're giving up on Dylan Carlson. I don't believe that by any stretch of but as I say that, we've seen it with Grichuk. We've seen it with Piscotty. We've seen it with the Rosarina. We've seen it with Tommy Pham. We've seen it with Adolis Garcia. I mean, the list does go on. It seems like they move on from guys very quickly if there's something they don't like at all. I'm not saying other organizations don't do that, but we pay attention to the Cardinals here. So it does feel like there is now everybody will say the Piscotty deal was different. And I do understand. It was different for sure. It didn't have to be done, but it was different. And
it's fair to say though, most of the guys you just named didn't have the prospect pedigree of Dylan Carlson.
Grichuk.
None of them did. I mean, no, Grichuk not even. He wasn't a top 20 He wasn't a top 20 prospect.
No, but
he was drafted back to back by the Angels with Trout. That's not how.
And if we're gonna be honest, you can say what you want about Grichuk, he's had a pretty good professional career.
He's a good player, yes. Obviously. But that's not.
But he was never given full-time opportionity.
He was never prying from my cold dead hands. That was never Randall Grichuk.
That is true.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, if I were to think about it and I were to say these are the guys that they really, really seem to be committing to. Tyler O'Neill's in a hitting group with Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, and Paul Goldschmidt. Okay, that's not by accident.
No. Lars, can I add to that?
Yeah,
can I just add to that? Obviously, coached at the high school level, not at the major league level, not at the minor league level, not even at the college level. However, you put guys in hitting groups for a reason. Sometimes it's positional. That's obviously not positional.
That's the catcher,
right?
Two corner,
but it is for a reason. And some could argue, well, the reason is maybe they want him to learn with it. Okay, great. If that is the reason, fantastic. What better group to be in than Nolan, Goldie, and Wilson? But if that's your argument, then you're going to spread those guys out and put the young guys with them. That's not what they did.
I also tend to look at it like that's who they think might be in the middle of their order. That's why I think
that's where I was. That's where I was going with that.
And then you go Lars Nootbaar. We know he's been a superstar of the offseason, right? He's the guy that everyone's talking about. He looks great. He's going to play for Team Japan. He's kind of becoming a superstar in terms of the media in St. Louis. Not nationally, but whatever. And then Jordan Walker is the guy that, I don't know if I've seen a press conference with Ollie or Mo or DeWitt or whoever where he wasn't brought up 10 times. Right. So if I'm just looking at it and saying, who's the guy I'm not hearing about? It's Dylan Carlson. And that makes me sad to an extent because I still believe Dylan Carlson is going to be a really good player in this league. But I think it's make or break for him this year. He's got to do it. You got to do it.
It's so funny that you say that, but we're saying, I think it's him and O'Neill both. I think these are big, massive years for those two guys.
It is for both of them. But I think, we've seen Tyler O'Neill when he was healthy last year, after he came back from his first injury, he was 25% above league average.
Right.
Okay. And he was an MVP candidate the year before. He has done it. He's been the superstar. Dylan Carlson doesn't need to be a superstar.
Yeah.
But he's got to be better than a 2-win player. That's not good enough. Not with
you
all these
think-
prospects coming up.
And I'm not trying to insult anyone by saying this, okay? Because I guess I am in the end an average fan too. But do you believe the average fan hears Dylan Carlson first round pick and expects elite superstar?
Not first round pick, because I don't think anyone's expecting Michael McGreevy to be that. But I do think they hear crying from my cold dead hands from Mo, and then you do expect it.
Okay,
And that's,
I
that's
often
on the
believe-
front office. Like that's
I
on the
often
front office
believe
for
that-
giving him that expectation.
I often believe that a lot of people don't understand the difference between a first round pick in MLB versus a first round pick in the NBA and the NFL. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, even in the
NFL
NBA, it's like top
You're
10,
going
but
right
then
to the
after
league.
that, it's not even superstars.
NFL, you're going right to the league in the first
Yeah.
round, and you're going to you're going to be an impact player on that team. In Major League, you're going to take 3 to 4. I mean, for Dylan, it was 2 to 3 years to develop to even get to and I just always wonder if people hear that, and I don't know the answer.
I don't think so,
People
though,
hear
because I
first
don't
round pick.
think.
Okay.
I think
that's
it's the
fair.
hype around him as a prospect more than when where he's drafted.
I mean,
like
when
if
you're the
he-
number one prospect in the organization, that's a fair point.
Yes, like Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker, same way. And Mason
Right.
Winman, he's gonna be the number one prospect after
Yes.
Walker's lost his prospect pedigree, and then he's gonna get the same hype. So
Yep.
no, I think it's more that Mosaic kind of came out and said he wasn't gonna trade him, and that he was his next
Okay.
rising star. And then like that's what people listen to. So I think I hope he starts to relax on that and calling and giving so much pressure to our prospects, because let's be honest, if Dylan Carlson is just 20 as an average, his average in his career is what he did in 2021 for the rest of his career, that's a great career. That's
Agreed.
like an amazing career. That doesn't happen.
I also think that there is something to be said, because it is still so loud on Twitter, no matter how many times you tell them you're wrong, is that people still believe that we did not trade Dylan Carlson for Soto, like for Juan Soto. Guys, I don't know how else to break it down to you. That's not what happened. Yes, they did go to Carlson and Gorman and say, we're not dealing you. That's because the Nationals also wanted the likes of fill in the blanks with Walker, Wynn, and et cetera. Right? So it was not, the deal was not done. Juan Soto is not a Cardinal, not a Cardinal, not either way. You know what I'm going to, because of Dylan Carlson. That did not hold up the trade. I don't know how else to tell people this. So I feel like people now have put an added pressure on Dylan Carlson because they don't understand or don't even take the time to understand what happened. So now they think, oh, Dylan Carlson's our Juan Soto. No, that's not even close to what happened. And do you think a guy like Dylan hears that? Do you think athletes hear that kind of stuff? They have to.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
some do, but some don't get on. If you don't get on social media, no, you don't hear it.
You still have
I don't
to
know.
hear it, don't you?
Not really.
Like-
not if you're on social media. How are you going to hear it?
Okay. All right. I think
It's not
Dylan's on
MLB
Twitter
Network.
and Instagram.
I mean, he has a Twitter, but that means he's on
Yeah,
it.
that's true. That's
Um,
fair.
I think, yeah, I mean, first off, Juan Soto, you're never going to have a Juan Soto, because guess what? There's been one Juan Soto in the history of baseball. Like, not even kidding. He's the highest on base percentage ever through the age 20 to up to the age 24.
Yeah.
There's one. There's been one of them. So
One of one.
stop with that.
Yeah.
Dylan, my perspective on that whole thing was that they didn't trade him. They went up to Dylan and Nolan because they're like, we're not getting this thing done. So we're going to
That's
tell them
it.
to keep it
Bingo.
comfortable. Like, that's what I took from
Yep.
it.
Which, by
here's
the
the
way,
thing,
as an
all you gotta do-
organization, great thing to do.
Yeah, you don't even have to speculate on what they wanted. Go look at what the Padres gave up, and then look and say, "Oh, where's our Mackenzie Gore?" And say, "Oh, we don't have one." So that means we would have had to give way more position players, or
Right.
we just didn't have enough to even give up. Like, it's one of
Yeah.
the two.
CJ
Like-
Abrams, right? That was another one.
Yeah, but he's not that good.
And well, then we saw the young outfielder play. You and I saw him in person in
And-
Peoria. That
not,
kid's a stud.
Not to mention a guy to look out for. James Woods is the biggest prospect
Yep.
they gave up.
Right.
That guy's going to be Jordan Walker level prospect
right.
in the next year. And so no, like that. I don't even, we didn't get Juan Soto. I love Juan Soto. Oh well, it's whatever. But imagine how what they would have reacted if Juan Soto would have played the way he did in San Diego when he came over here. If we traded all those guys, those fans would have been fuming.
I just always wonder, and again, I'm hypothesizing, I guess here. We saw Gorman and obviously Carlson had the injury, but we saw them struggle after the trade deadline. And I just always wonder, like, I've never obviously been in this situation, and I know that it's part of the business. I get that.
Mhm.
But you're both number one first round draft picks, both number one prospects in the organization, and then you start hearing your name in these trade talks. I don't know as a human how that doesn't affect you. Like, and I'm not saying that's why they struggled. But I am saying, that you have to hear the noise, and it does have to weigh on. It just has to. I don't care. Everybody else is going to, most guys say the right thing because they're smart and they know how to handle
Especially
the media.
those two. Those two are as professional as you
Very
can
well
find.
spoken humans, yes. But it just has to weigh on you. Like, you don't know where you're going to go. Hey, all I've heard is how they loved me. Pry me from your cold. You're going to have to pry me from your cold, dead hands. Now, all of a sudden, I'm in every trade deal imaginable. And, I just wonder. I always wonder that with athletes. And I don't know that you can ever get a straight answer from an athlete till after they're done playing, probably. But I do always wonder if that does weigh on you. I mean, we saw the arbitration stuff weigh on Tyler at the beginning of last year.
Well, they're humans. We just got to remember that they're human beings.
Which a lot of people, by the way, do seem to forget.
Yeah, they're human beings. They're going to react like humans would. What would you do if your job was saying, "Oh, I might trade you to a different job
I wish they would have
in a different city." You might have to move your whole family.
Right?
That's not an easy thing to get. No. I mean, you have relationships you build. It's a human thing. But also on top of that, I don't know. I think Mosaic going to them and saying, "Hey, we're not trading you," probably helped them a lot, at least in the immediate, maybe not in the long term. I don't know. But also, when you're a top prospect, a number one overall prospect, anytime a star becomes available around the league, your name's getting brought up. It's just going to happen. So they probably get used to it. Like Jordan Walker, for example, he was never going to get traded. I never really thought he was going to get traded. His name was brought up. It didn't seem to have affected him, but people react differently. I do believe, though, if you're a number one prospect or a top 30 prospect in all of baseball, like those two were, I think you probably learn to tune it out a little bit, I would assume, because it happens so much.
Yeah, I guess, but we do forget, and I think this goes back to the baseball versus football and basketball thing. Basketball may be a little bit different, but these guys didn't experience 3 years of college ball or even 2 years of junior college ball. They went straight from high schools to being professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And
Jordan Walker didn't even experience his senior year of high
school. I mean, what a freak. But like I said, I hate to take away from what we're talking about with Dylan, but I think you're right in the fact that there's not as much to say about him as there might be with the other three, simply because we don't know anything. We don't know. Did he go and add 20 pounds of muscle? I haven't even seen, honestly.
I've seen him.
Okay, does he look like he's at it? Does he look bigger?
I can't tell. He's always been a skinnier guy.
He looks good. 6'2".
He looks like he's in good shape. I saw him take batting practice today. He looked pretty good. But his batting practice, they should all look good, right? They're major leaguers. So
they should.
I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna wait till I see him in spring. Here's the thing I will say, because I know we started off with I think the organization could be phasing him out. Maybe that's not true. I'm not saying I know that for a fact, so please don't take it as I do. But I am saying that if I were ranking them in my head, I would think he might be fourth on the pecking order. And I could be wrong, but I don't think he should be fourth on the pecking order, because I think he has the safest floor. I think his floor is what we saw in 2022, which is still a productive big leaguer that helps you every single day in some way or another. And that's a valuable player. Here's the thing that bothers me. Look at the Houston center fielder and their 9-hitter. It's Chas McCormick. No offense to Chas McCormick. He had some huge moments in the playoffs. He had a really good postseason. He's not a superstar. If Dylan Carlson is your center fielder, even just doing what he did in 2022, which I don't think he will, because I think he'll be much better than that, he's still a valuable player on your team. But especially when you know that he can do what he did in 2021. And I think we all believe he can be better than he was in 2021. He was a 788 OPS guy in 2021. That's what Lars Nootbaar did last year. I believe Dylan Carlson could do that again. I think he can get better than that. So I hope he gets a fair shake. I hope Jordan Walker, whenever he goes north with the big club, doesn't completely just phase Dylan Carlson out. I hope he continues to get chances, because I think he's earned them, to be quite honest. And I don't think one bad year should deter them from continuing to see what they have in a 24-year-old switch hitting outfielder that was a stud his rookie year.
Agreed 100%. And like I said, I'm excited to see the competition. That's really what I cannot wait for, is the competition between these four guys for 3 spots in the outfield. And we've talked about, Dylan and Walker are going to get tons of opportunities, because Tyler's going to be with Canada and Lars is going to be with Japan. And I know that you said Canada not that great. They were ranked. They had him finish 9th. Not great. I understand that, but he's going to play a lot of games there in Canada. Lars, they could be in it for the long haul with.
They could win it.
So there is no doubt that we're going to see a lot of Alec Burleson. I think we're going to see a lot of Jordan Walker, Dylan Carlson, and I think we're going to get a lot of Moises Gomez in this.
And Juan Yepez.
And you think in the outfield you'll see a lot of Yepez in the outfield?
He was in the outfield today.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know. See, look at that. That's why we bring you this news, because Caleb's got on it. I am deep, dude. I am knee deep in Mardi Gras season. I have now learned that tomorrow is Mardi Gras, which is simply a day that happens during Mardi Gras weekend, which is simply a weekend that happens during Mardi Gras week down here, which is just a week that happens during Mardi Gras month, which happens to be just a month in Mardi Gras season. This is, I'm good. I'm not. I'm
You
going
can't
on
do
a
this
deep
every
house.
year, or you're gonna get cirrhosis of the liver.
Dude, we have been to, and unfortunately last night, not a good night, a little bit away from us. There was a shooting on the parade route. Not by anywhere by where we were, down in one of the rougher areas where they go through, but so that cannot happen. That can't happen. But it has been quite, we've been at so many parades. We're going back tonight. I think we're going out tonight. Tomorrow's Zulu's the big parade. That's the big Indian parade down here. They're Indians. They dress up as the Zulu Indians. That's like the epic one. Pretty excited to see that. We have seen some really cool shit, dude. It's pretty awesome. I'm excited for you to come down next year, and you got to see a little bit of it. But New Orleans is literally unlike any other place in the world. That's what I'll say.
It is definitely unique. I'll definitely give it that. It definitely is a unique. Is Zulu African?
I believe, yeah, that's a great question, but I
If it's
believe
African,
so.
how is it Indian?
They put these massive Indian costumes on, and it's like
From India.
No, well, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know. I need to do more research on that. Yeah, but it is like obviously a massive tradition within that community down here.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know.
Yeah. I need to do more research on that. Like I said, I'm
where did we
learning things
go?
as I
How
go.
did we get here?
I don't know. I don't know how I got here, because
How
I'm
did we
in
get
this
it?
Mardi Gras.
See, we're like
phase right now.
Mosaic. We just don't talk about Dylan Carlson. We just get away from it.
Before we transition on to what I'd like to get to before we get out of here. Thank you again for watching. While you're watching, if you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, we greatly appreciate that. And I think next to the subscribe button is the notification button. If you ever want to know when Caleb releases these, you'll get, it's a little ding ding. You'll get an update. That's really cool. I have them set for a few of the podcasts that I watch. And there you go. What are you laughing about?
Nothing. You said ding ding.
Ding,
Anyway.
ding. Well, that's what it does. Below here, you'll see our Twitter handles. You see our nice little shout
There
out
are
to
also
Greg
links in the description for all those things as well.
And shout out to our logo from Drake, former student of mine, did a great job with our new logo. We love it. And also you can always find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Also, we've gotten a lot of subscribers lately. We've gained like 30 in the last 2 days, which is pretty cool. So thank you for that.
Shout out to St. Louis Game Day Nate. Sorry, no, go ahead. Demeanor. Sorry.
You can go ahead. What I was going to say was
you finish.
Really, no, because yours made sense with what we were talking about. Mine was going to be segueing out of what we were talking about.
Shout out to St. Louis Game Day Nation, and there was another one on Facebook for sharing our posts lately, our countdown that we've been doing. That's helped us get some more exposure on Facebook too. So you guys are awesome. The tell a friend thing works. We did steal that, but I'm going to continue it. Like, keep telling a friend. We appreciate you. Now, before we get to, no, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to final thoughts for Dylan Carlson before we move on.
Oh yeah, okay, there you go.
We did this with Tyler and Lars, so I feel like we should do it again. Expectations. What are your expectations for him, and what do you think is realistic for him? And also, I'll add another wrinkle to this because of what we've talked about today. What do you think he needs to do to continue playing every day? Those are my three things.
I think you hit it right on the head, and I don't think it goes any further than being able to hit right-handed pitching consistently. That's what I think. That's it. I really honestly do. And you have mentioned this many times before, so I will give you credit so you don't have to say it yourself to hurt yourself, patting yourself on the back. But I will tell you that you have said this a lot. He does have to drive the ball the other way a little bit more often from the left side. And I think he has to hit the ball harder as a overall thing. Maybe the shift helps him, but you're right. Like, he does need more power, and I think he has to hit from the left side more consistently.
Yeah, and he is shown, and the thing that's so impressive about him, because I think he's a really good baseball player. Like, I really do. But what's so impressive to me about him is he put up those numbers in 2021, and his StatCast metrics, some people don't care about them, some people do. He was hitting the ball with a wet noodle. Like, and he was still putting up almost 800 OPSs. If he just adds a little bit of a spike in that exit velo, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's batting, in the 820 to 830 area probably, which is an elite baseball player. He was in Driveline, so I saw that. I think he might have a puck knob now. I think the whole Cardinal team does after what they saw
Does
Nolan and
seem-
Goldie do last
yeah.
year. But which is
Yeah.
good. So hopefully he's getting on that right track. He's just got to hit the ball harder for me at times. Like
Yeah.
there are times where he's just like he's infuriating sometimes because they're just like swing one-handed and kind of give away at bats, and that's what it appears. It's not what it is because it almost looks lazy. It's not, but it's just an approach thing I think with him. So he's got to refine that. But when he's going well, man, he's hitting the ball in the gap. He's pulling homers. There was a stretch last year around Toronto, I think. Yeah. When Goldie and Nolan weren't there, he was destroying the ball. I mean, he had like a month and a half stretch where he had an 850 OPS for a while last year. So I want to see it more consistently throughout the entire year. He can't be so streaky. He's got to be able to hit right-handed pitching. And just continue playing great defense. Because if he's playing great defense and he's just slightly above league average offensively, that's a 3 to 4 win guy if he's playing 140 games. And that's a very valuable guy to have on your team, especially when you have all these big boppers we've been talking about, where he doesn't really need to be that big bopper. You know, he doesn't need to be that guy. He can be a great complementary piece for this team.
I agree.
But he can also be
100%.
he can also be more than that as well. Like he can be more than that. He has the potential to.
I mean, I think we came into the player profiles talking about Dylan Carlson hitting 7th or 8th for this team, like on a consistent basis. And now as we start to see like how the Cardinals maybe really do view Jordan Walker, and we don't know that. That's got to play out over the next
he's got to
we don't know that.
He's definitely got to earn
right. But over the next month, I guess we'll really find something out here as we go there. But I agree with you. I mean, coming in, I'm hoping 15 to 20 homers from Dylan Carlson and a 15 to 25% above league average hitter. That's
I don't even know if I care about the home runs as much. Just give me the doubles. Give me the doubles. I mean, he's a doubles guy, man. Like he on a down year last year, like we've said, he still hit 30 doubles.
Right.
In 128 games. Like if he's hitting, like I think he can be much better than that. I think he could be a 40 double guy in 140 games. Hit me 10 to 15 home runs and play great defense. That's better than Harrison Bader ever was here.
Well, it's so funny too, because, and it's the last thing I'll say, I do think, and this probably happens on every fan base, we just focus on the Cardinal one, but the fans think that they have to have an all-star at every freaking position. You hit on it earlier, which has McCormick in Houston. We saw Maldonado in Houston. That's not an all-star.
World Series champions starting every day.
That's a offensive abyss is Maldonado a lot of times. But what he brings to your team, right? What he brings to your team is so valuable, and it feels like so many people forget.
2006. Yachty couldn't hit 2006.
Yeah, that's where Royce Clayton was playing most of those games. That's what made Ozzie retire. But yes, down the end of, I mean, we've seen it with a lot of guys. Hey, if he's playing elite defense in the outfield and he's putting up those kind of numbers, that is a massive weapon on your team. That's what I'll say.
Yachty played 130 games in 2006.
I'm sorry. I thought you said Ozzie, and I was thinking 96. Good
no,
Lord.
I said Yachty. Yachty in 2006 had a 595 OPS and won a World Series.
Yeah, right.
Like there are players, there's value to be had, and not everyone's going to be Nolan Arenado. Those guys are very rare. That's why he's getting paid $35 million a season. Okay, so like look at that catch, Chas McCormick. Like I know we keep this is kind of a weird thing, but he is not an all-star by any means. Like maybe he will be eventually. He's not now. He made maybe the biggest play of the World Series for that team. Like that catch he made on JT Realmuto was incredible. You can have guys that play different roles on a team. I think Dylan Carlson's role can be a great defensive center fielder that is also a well above average hitter. Like I don't get the need. I get we're always looking for the best thing at every position because that's just what fans do. You know, you want to have an all-star at all 9 positions. The reality is you're not going to because no team does. You're not the 1930 Yankees.
Right.
I think he's going to be really good. I just hope that they aren't eager to move on from him.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like I hope they're not looking for him to slide in the beginning of the year. If Jordan Walker's not up at that time, to just bring Jordan Walker up, and then Dylan Carlson's never seen from again. Like, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will, but I really hope it doesn't.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. All right, moving on. Let's move on from Dylan Carlson. I think we'd be remiss not to give a massive shout out and an RIP to Tim McCarver, obviously Cardinal legend who we lost over the last week. I think a lot of people remember him with his final stint with the Cardinals, where people would get very annoyed with some of the things that he would say, and he just kind of was on these tangents. But I think for me, he was the voice of the game of the week in the 80s. with Vince Scully and Joe Garagiola. Like when I was growing up watching this was pre-cable, the game of the week on Saturdays, Tim McCarver was the voice. Then in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2000 early 10s, he was every big game on Fox was he and Joe Buck. Yep. Like that was Tim McCarver.
David Freese.
And then you're talking about a base or a Cardinal Hall of Famer. He's in the Irish Hall of Fame, which is very fucking cool. He also
he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
No, should be.
He is an announcer, I believe.
I checked. I could not find that. I could not clarify that.
Let me
because I was shocked. I thought he was too, but I did not see him in the.
He's in the sports Okay, well, maybe not. Maybe he's in the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is not in the National Baseball Hall of
Fame.
Get in. He should be.
He'll get in.
And it's a shame that it's going to be after posthumously. How they say that? That's a shame. But also, like, we forget, dude won 2 World Series here in St. Louis. He was a 2-time All-Star. Hit a massive home run in the '66 World Series in Game 6, maybe. I don't remember. I could be wrong.
He was Bob Gibson's batting mate for most of his career, right?
Yes, and very, very good friends with Bob Gibson. I mean, I think he played 21 years in the major leagues. Like, but what he has given baseball through his life, what he gave me as a kid, what he gave me as a college kid and a young adult. Thank you for everything to Tim McCarver. Incredible storyteller. Like, I'm not going to put him at Bob Uecker or Vince Scully level, but maybe right there. He was a great storyteller, and he had the mind, man. He remembered them all. Like, I always loved listening to Tim McCarver as a kid and as a young adult.
I never understood the hate for Tim McCarver because I always thought that his tangents were fucking hilarious. All of them were they were funny because he said whatever he wanted to say. He did not hold back. He kind of reminds me of like a better version of Keith Hernandez. They just say what they want. They don't. He's like, I'm Tim McCarver. They're not going to do anything to me. But he was awesome. When I think of him, I think of the World Series because it was him and Joe Buck every year when I was growing up, and especially the 2011 World Series. The one thing I remember most, and this is something I've always remembered, was when Lance Berkman came up, because I watched the replays of this all the time in 2011, to when he tied it in Game 6, and he hit that single, the looping single to tie the game in the 11th or the 10th, I guess. He said, "Why are they back? All he needs is a single to tie the game. Why are they back?" And then the next pitch, he just bloops one right in front of the center fielder. He was like, "I told you, why are they back?" So he was awesome, and he had a different view of baseball. He knew what was going to happen almost before it happened because he'd been around it for so long. But he's an absolute legend.
It's a catcher. Like, catchers are always ahead of the game. Always ahead of the game. And, he and Danny Mac were really good together. And Danny Mac always did a really good Tim McCarver. Was good to hear from, speaking of, good to hear from Danny Mac. I mean, as sad as the post was, and I'm not going to go deep into that.
He was in an interview. He sounds good.
Yeah, I saw. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
He sounds good. Just hope he's doing okay. Like, that's all I can say about that. I just hope he's doing all right. I love Danny Mac.
Right.
I know there's some things that were not great, but people make mistakes. I hope he's doing okay.
I do too. I think can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. My AirPods are doing something very weird right now. I apologize for that.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. So as I take it into the next thing, I'm gonna let you go into this. Talk about the Ryan Helsley arbitration.
Can we start with Corbin Burns then?
Sure.
Because let's go in chronological order here. Corbin Burns obviously lost his arbitration case. How a pitcher of Corbin Burns' caliber can go into an arbitration case only asking for $10.7 million. And I know I say only, but asking for $10.7 million and lose, I will never understand because that guy is worth far more than $10.7 million. However, he was very upset, said that he was the reason they didn't make the postseason. Basically, the guy that had the most starts in the National League and the most strikeouts in the National League was the reason the team that traded their all-star closer and ruined their morale didn't make the postseason. That organization keeps befuddling me with incompetence.
Dumpster fire.
They're incompetent. So that's where we started with the arbitration hearing. Those interviews, I suggest go watch it because I thought he was very eloquent and professional. He was obviously very bothered, but the way he laid out everything I thought was very professional and great on Corbin Burns' part. He seems like an awesome dude. And then we get to Ryan Helsley. He lost his arbitration case for $3 million. He ended up getting 2.1, I believe. he didn't seem that upset about it, to be quite honest. He seemed like it's just, he tried to capitalize off a great year. I don't know how he didn't win, to be honest. I wish they would have just paid him, to be honest with you, kept him happy. But he did say he still would be interested in pursuing a long-term deal with the Cardinals. So it doesn't seem like any love lost there. I don't think they personally attacked him quite like the Brewers did with Corbin Burns. So I feel like I'm glad they didn't bring up some shit about his finger in the playoffs. It doesn't sound like they did, which thank God, because that's how you ruin a relationship right there. But it seems like it's just an arbitration case and he lost it.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. There are rules to the arbitration cases that the MLBPA agreed to. And unfortunately, what happens in those, and we've talked about them on here before, it gets personal. We saw Tyler lose his after a top 8 MVP finish the next year. Like, we saw that. So anyone who expected Ryan Helsley to go in and win his after like his past career with injuries and everything else, there was no way that was going to happen. Also, I think I understand the sentiment from you and a lot of Cardinals fans of just pay him. But if they do that, that changes the entire arbitration process for every single player, unless you extend them. So that's why that's never, almost never going to happen.
I know,
that's why
it's $3 million that
I understand
player
that,
in baseball.
but here's the thing. There's a number.
I get it. Like TDL, is that what it's called?
Yes, there's a number. And people don't love this, and I'm not saying I love it. I'm just letting you know, with precedent, they're not going to do that, because then the next guy, then it's just going to get extended and extended. And now, why are we even doing arbitration agreements?
Shouldn't that be where it's going when you see? And I get it from the standpoint of the owners aren't going to want to do that. Obviously, they're not going to.
They shouldn't do it. Like, we have to remember.
Stop! Don't say that. They should. They should.
Okay, I want the players to get as much money as possible, and you know that
they should do it.
But with arbitration, it's different than extensions, and they're going to follow the letter of the law in an arbitration.
Okay, but hold on. Here's my thing, and don't say they shouldn't do it. They won't do it for business. They shouldn't do it from their standpoint of business. I think they should do it because, one, inflation. There's that, but also the CBA, the competitive balance tax is going up. The price of relievers is going up. So that means the price in arbitration should also be going up. That should be. It just should be. And I get it. You don't want to be the owner that pisses every other owner off by paying Ryan Helsley $3 million, which means their reliever that had one great year is also going to need to make $3 million. I get why they didn't do it from their perspective. That doesn't mean I like it, because I don't like it. I think arbitration is a very poor. The way I view it, player relations is worth the extra $900,000 to keep your all-star closer happy. It's worth it to me. Now, I'm not the one spending the money.
Do you think the fact that they also did maybe potentially discuss trading him in the offseason has anything to do with that?
There's been a lot of weird stuff about that, whether it was them that discussed it or if it was just brought up to them.
Which is why I said potentially. I don't know.
No, because they discussed a long-term contract.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, they've been in discussions with Helsley on a contract. And I don't know if that means buying out the ARB years or if it means maybe tacking on 2 years after the arbitration years. I could see, you pay him for the 2 ARB years and then maybe give him, 10 a year after that for 2 years. I could see that. And with Ryan Helsley's talent, I do think that'd be worth it. Just because the upside of that deal would be tremendous. Because if he goes to the market, and he's still pitching like this, he's getting Edwin Diaz almost money, right? Like, that's how good he is.
I don't think so, because Diaz has such the past. Like, he was so good in Seattle. He really only had 1 year.
But he's had a couple of really bad years.
Yeah, but here's what I'll say. Where I stand also on pitchers. I wouldn't extend any of them very long, especially a reliever. I just wouldn't. I know. I would buy out the ARB years. I'm on board with you on that one. Yeah. But that might be something they talk about now. Yeah.
But also, I wouldn't be opposed to a couple years added onto that. He's an elite arm. Like, if he is healthy, he's going to be elite. He's got elite stuff. He just does. And we're seeing some relievers, I think, recently have really been able to sustain success more than previous. Like, during the early 2000s, there weren't very many. It was Moen, it was Hoffman, and it was Billy Wagner. But other than those three, there weren't a ton of guys that were really, really good for a long time. But I think we've seen guys like Hader, guys like Edwin Diaz, like who's the Liam Hendricks, Ryan Presley. They've been able to really find a way to extend out their career. I don't know what that is. Craig Kimbrell, right. Aroldis Chapman. I know we don't like him as a person, but he still was able to do it. So I think maybe that narrative of fire throwing relievers not being able to have long careers, maybe that's going away a little bit because they've been able to do it. But the elite ones seem to be able to do it for longer. And I think Helsley, if he has another year like that, he's one of the elite ones in baseball.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's what was brought up in the arbitration case too. That you do it again. Now we're changing the
You do it
narrative.
again, and they're probably paying you. I think.
Boom. That's and so that's all I'm trying to say is we see what's happening in the NFL right now because of what the Cleveland Browns paid Deshaun Watson. Right now, obviously that's an extension.
Danny Dimes wants $45 million a year.
Boom.
What the fuck?
Like honestly, there is talk in the NFL circles of like maybe the quarterback should have their own like cap.
I agree with that. Actually.
Then you don't punish the team for not being able to sign around him.
Just have their salary not even included in the cap. Because you can't win without a quarterback. It's such a unique thing. That won't ever happen, I don't think.
But that's why it's not going to be done in arbitration. It sucked for Tyler. I thought he should. I mean, I wanted him to get paid. I knew it wasn't going to happen. And I knew that, like, Ryan wasn't. It's just unfortunate. Hey, now, back to what we started with, and we'll move on. Corbin Burns is leaving Milwaukee now, right? Like, he's done there. He's not good.
Here's what I think. I don't think they go to arbitration with Corbin Burns if they planned on extending him. I think they already made their decision to move on. And here's why I think that. Corbin Burns might make $40 million a year. Right. He is absolutely a generational talent. I mean, he has a Mariano Rivera-esque, it's not maybe not to that level, cutter, and he throws it for 7 innings. Like he is absolutely incredible. He's my favorite pitcher to watch in baseball. So I don't think he was ever I've always been under the impression that if they're going to extend a pitcher, it's probably going to be Woodruff because he's going to be way more affordable. I think they ruined the relationship. I would be surprised if Burns is on the Brewers come 2024 opening day.
Okay, I agree.
I think he's either going to get moved at this deadline or in the offseason after 2023.
Well, we'll take that transition right into the fact the Baseball Prospectus, who obviously hates the Cardinals, has us picked to finish second behind the Brewers with 86 wins. Now, they've done this to us forever, it seems like. I don't know who works at the Baseball Prospectus. I don't know who pissed them off.
I heard him talk. I actually listened to an interview with him.
Okay, good.
So he said that they are very much aware that they don't know how to rank the Cardinals. They're the only ones that defy us every year. And we don't have a measurement for Cardinal Devil Magic as well as how good their defense is. Because a big thing with them is pitching. And it's like pitching runs expected or deserved. It's something like that. So it's how much, it's taking into account strikeouts and how many times you walk people and things the pitcher can't control. But what they don't have a measurement for is how defense factors into that. So he says we are aware that our projections, it's a system. It's a computer system they do.
Yeah.
So it spits out numbers. He said we're aware that we're going to be off on the Cardinals nearly every time.
They are.
But if we change that, we have to change it for everybody, which is going to make us off on 20 teams instead of 1.
And it also now becomes more subjective.
Yeah. So what they've done is they've said, we know we're probably going to be wrong on the Cardinals, but we're hitting on 25 teams and 1 team's off. We'd rather take the 1 loss.
That's fair.
So that's what he said.
I now like them more. I now like those guys more.
He was very transparent. He said, we get it. He was like, we were on pace in 2021 to be fine with the Cardinals. And then Tyler O'Neill became the best player in baseball. He said, we were on pace to be fine last year. And then Quintana became a Cy Young and Brendan Donovan was one of the best rookies we've ever seen.
Right.
He was like, so we don't have an indicator to because if you think about that, that's fair. You can't predict Tyler O'Neill to do what he did in 2021.
No. You
can't predict Donovan to do what he did. You can't predict Helsley to do what he did. So there's really the Cardinals just find a way to get the most out of some young players. And it's really hard to predict that. Yeah.
Last thing on baseball, MLB Office came out. I assume it was from the Office. I'm saying that. I don't want to quote that wrong. One of the points of emphasis this year for the umpires are the balks. Give me your thoughts on. Obviously, there's some changes there with we see some of the. You see it all the time. I'm gonna forget the name.
It came after Luis Garcia.
That's who it was. I knew it was an Astros pitcher. Could not remember who. With the wild windup, and everybody else says, "Oh, how is that not a balk?" It's a very valid question. But so I'm going to let you address that situation. I'm not a big fan of the.
Johnny Cueto started this conversation.
There you go. There you go.
I get it because they need to find a way to start the pitch clock and know when to start the pitch clock. So if you're going through all these gyrations and you're putting your foot up and down 3 times, how are they going to know when to stop the pitch clock? Because they don't know when your windup starts, right? They don't know when you're starting to throw the ball. So that's one reason that they did it. But also, I get it. But if you do it every time, like Garcia, Cueto, those guys are very repetitive with the things they've done. Cueto always did the thing. I always ask this question, how is it not a balk? Because you turn and face second base all the time. if you do it every time and there's a precedent set, I don't think it should be a balk because I think you've set the precedent that you're going home at that point. Now, if you snap it off one time and pick off on it, then yeah, it should be a balk in my opinion. But I'm okay with it because they need to know when to start the pitch clock and when to stop it. So I get why they're doing it. I'm interested to see how it affects guys like Luis Garcia because he has an electric arm. Like I don't think it's just foolery. That's the reason he's been good. But it is interesting to me to see how it affects people. I will say that. I don't know what to think of it.
I will tell you what was interesting to me the most is you have a league who seems like they are creating every single rule to speed up the game. And then they put a point of emphasis on a rule that slows down the game by calling a balk, allowing every player to walk to the next base. There's an argument with the manager, with the pitcher, with the catcher, every balk. Now you've just slowed down the game.
But you know what their hope is, though? Their hope is that after the first couple of times, it doesn't happen again. And then it speeds up the game because you don't have all these long windups.
When does that ever happen with Major League Baseball?
I mean, people will adapt. They don't want to give runners an extra base. They don't. I mean, 90 feet,
yeah,
90 feet in Major League Base, 90 feet in Major League Baseball is a very valuable thing.
It is. I'm just hoping it doesn't slow the pace of play down.
It won't.
And also, let's not the NFL had that a couple years ago where they were, what was it, the taunting rule they made. And now they're calling these ridiculous penalties on players out there celebrating after they made one of the biggest plays that's going to make them more money than they've ever seen in their life. Let's not now call every balk because instead of the 2-second pause, it was 1.8. Do you know, that is my concern.
I hope that's not what they're doing.
That's all I'm saying.
I think eventually people will adapt. And after maybe a first couple of weeks of maybe a couple of rough outings from some pitchers that balk a lot, I think they'll adapt and I think they'll be fine. Baseball players adapt all the time. Like that's what they do.
Absolutely. On to the two greatest things I saw this week, and I'll let you address any if you saw one. Okay, for Major League Baseball, because we did kind of hit on unfortunately, the arbitration sucks. Corbin Burns kind of got fucked by a process that the players and everybody agreed to.
A good
process. Then obviously we had to talk about some other stuff there. The balks, we don't like that. The coolest thing I saw as far as the Cardinals was Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker walking in with all their gear, with all their backpacks, their shoes like right there by their bats, like they were going to a high school tournament like you guys used to play. I mean, that is when you see those two guys next to each other, you can tell it seems like maybe I'm just getting the pictures. It seems like those two guys are right next to each other at all times.
They seem to be best friends. They say they play 2K all the time together.
Yeah.
Also I think throw Tink in there too. He's just not a big league camp. But those three seem to be really.
With Graceffo today too. Graceffo and Walker and Gomez.
Tink, Walker, and Wynn all seem to be pretty good friends, which makes sense. They came up at the same time. They're from the same area-ish, south. But yeah, those two, they're exciting, obviously. When you see those guys and you see them walking around by Nolan and Goldie, and you saw Mason Wynn, the coolest thing I saw, Mason Wynn met Ozzie Smith. I don't know if you saw this. That was awesome.
Yeah, I did.
And he was like, hey, my stepfather would be freaking out right now if he knew I was with Ozzie Smith. But yeah, it's awesome to see those guys in camp. Obviously, they're in different trajectories in their career as of right now, but they do seem to be really close.
Yeah,
I think it's cool to have your top two position player prospects being really close as they come up together. That's going to add good chemistry as they get up to the big leagues together.
Absolutely. And they've been linked together since they got to the minor leagues. So, that's one of those things.
First and second round picks.
Adding to that, I think you sent it to me. That with the Ozzie thing, Nolan requested that Ozzie be in camp, Nolan Arenado. That's fucking awesome. That's incredible. What knowledge of just again, knowing, like, being smarter than everybody else in the room is Nolan. Like, I love that.
And my favorite thing, so there's been a lot of stories about Mike Matheny not wanting those guys around for some reason. I think it was an ego trip for him. I don't know what Mike Matheny's problem was, if we're being honest. He seemed to have a lot of them as a manager. But Ollie said, if it was up to me, Ozzie Smith would be here every fucking day. Like, he would be.
So
these guys around
Willie
here.
Is, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a part of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't surprise me at all that Nolan said, hey, I want to learn from the best defensive player to ever walk this planet.
Right.
Like, that doesn't surprise me from Nolan. But I do think that's awesome that they feel Ozzie's valuable around them. Because it's different. Like, you could have one of the best players of all time come around and still not really bring much to the table, right? Just kind of go do their own thing. Like, that's something that happens. They don't owe you anything. But the fact that the Cardinals have built this culture where guys like Ozzie, who played 30 years ago, comes back and still feels like he wants to give something to the next generation and still feels a part of Cardinal baseball on the field of Oz or whatever it's called down there. Like, that's awesome to me. So I'm happy. I mean, it's awesome to see pictures of Ozzie and Nolan and Mason Wynn. And I'm sure at some
Brendan
point,
Donovan, Tommy Edman,
right,
Juan
whether it's at this point or maybe it's a year down the road when he's further away from retirement, I'm sure we're going to see Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina doing the same type of thing because that's just the culture the Cardinals have created, and I think it's awesome.
If the Angels let him out of the service contract, I guess
he's only got a couple of years of that though, right? Like 5
I thought it was 10.
10?
Yeah.
I've heard Mo speak on it and say that he does believe they'll allow him to do some things with the Cardinals.
Okay, good. They better.
Like opening day and stuff.
The other thing I was going to say, and actually I had 3 things that I wanted to hit on the good things. The second great thing I saw this week was Moises Gomez quads.
He's huge.
That's Saquon Barkley, dude. Those quads are unbelievable.
He's a big dude.
We've seen Adolis Garcia's biceps, right? I mean, they almost don't even look real.
Well, he's a big
Gomez is put together. Like I really want to. I am excited to see him. Nobody's talking about him. I
don't agree with that. I think a lot of people started talking about him.
I'm excited to see what he can do.
I've seen more pictures of his quads than I have anyone else's in my life. It's him and Saquon. Like, right. Saquon's quads, I've seen a lot of pictures of. But
unbelievable.
I don't think they're as big as Saquon's, but
you have to have them tailor-made, right? You have to have them tailor-made. Like you can't.
You don't go to Kohl's. He goes to big and tall.
You think he goes to Kohl's and tries on all the pants?
He goes to what's that place called? Ross. He goes to Ross where they have the really cheap XXL. But I think he's a very intriguing player. He's so raw still. Like, but he had 39 home runs last year. Struck out 40% of the time in the minor leagues. They said he works really hard, which not surprising to me, but he's been working on hitting the ball more because he has some of the best peripherals in baseball when it comes to his contact peripherals. Like he hits the ball as hard as anybody, as consistently as anybody. And when that guy is on fire, it's just bombs away. Like he's incredible. He's just got to become more consistent. But, if they can find him to just get that strikeout percentage down to, 33%, 30%. I mean, you're talking about a guy that could come up and make a bigger impact than anyone's talking about because he can he can hit you 30 bombs right now in the big leagues if he played every day.
Boom.
Like, easily.
Boom. Yep.
Easily he could.
Then the 2 cool things, non-Cardinal related, that I wanted to get your take on because the first one, we'll start with a guy who the Cardinals were really, a lot of fans, especially, and I believe the Cardinals were heavy on too, was Carlos Rodon. Super cool move by him. Obviously, all the Yankee fans, like they do, starting the Venmo to get him to come to New York. He takes all the money, helps a family in Illinois of a house that burned down. Like those are stories you don't hear enough about, and that was super. I mean, I'm not shocked. I've not heard nothing but great things about this.
Yeah, I would say I've heard nothing but awesome things about Carlos.
Same. So I just wanted our fans who maybe don't know, that's super cool. Makes me want to root for Carlos Rodon more. He is a Yankee. It's going to be really hard for me, but I will root for him when he pitches every 5th day. Is that fair?
He also, like we've talked about him before, he's an awesome story, man.
Yeah,
he came from getting DFA'd. They're going right back to the White Sox, and now he's making almost $200 million. Like an amazing story for him. But yeah, he seems awesome. I think when you have something like that happen to you, where you go from almost being out of the league to being one of the best in the league, like in a year, I think that probably gives you a different perspective, and I think it's cool that he's doing stuff like that.
Yep. And then the last thing, our guy, our GOAT, a super cool story, sitting in a airport in Arizona. Bryce Harper, as a fan, come up to him, ask him to autograph his hat. Bryce does not have a Sharpie, so he only has a regular pen. So what does he do? He takes off one of his shoes, signs it, gives it to the kid, and then spends the rest of the day getting on the plane and limping or walking around the airport in one shoe. Like, again, that I'll say he's my favorite player in baseball. I love everything he's done since he's been 19 years old. And to do something like that is just a class act of all humanity.
It's just, and no one expects him to do that. Like that's crazy. That's a crazy level of doing something like that. But that just shows you, like, and he didn't do that he didn't say he did this. Like there's video of him walking around with one shoe. Thank you, by the way, for
pointing that out.
But he wasn't the one that like put this out there. He's just a genuinely awesome guy, it seems like.
Yep.
And here's the thing, with a guy like him, it'd be very easy for him to be disassociated from everybody because he's been famous since he was 16 years old. He was on Sports Illustrated as the chosen one of baseball. Like he was coming up as LeBron James of baseball.
Absolutely.
And he's coming off one of the most epic postseason runs of all time from a superstar player. He could incredibly not do those things.
He can't go anywhere without people knowing who he is.
He could not do those things and nobody would even question it. But the fact that he takes his time to do stuff like that, it just shows. I mean, I don't know. He's awesome. He's just an awesome guy.
Like, I'm not going to lie. I feel like I'm a pretty good human. I wouldn't even have thought to do that. Do you know what I mean? I would have probably signed the hat with the pen and made that, by the way, which would have made the kids' year.
Not when you signed it, but if you were Bryce Harper, yes.
Fair. That's good. That's good. But you know what I'm like, for him to also just have the wherewithal of, I don't need to just make this kid hat. Like, my goal now is this kid. Like, that's
you're gonna go to an airport, take off your shoe, and try and sign for somebody, and they're like this. They're gonna faint when they smell it, but they're also gonna be like, why the hell are you getting?
No, my feet smell good.
They're like, I'm doing it for
last
you.
thing before we get to the mailbag, the Blues are dead. This run, the Stanley Cup run, the Blues that I know and the Blues that I love are officially dead. Ryan O'Reilly, look, I just bought 2 new Blues jerseys. I bought a Kyrou and a Thomas. Bought a Robert Thomas and a Brett Hull, who, like, my guy from back in the day. I wanted the O'Reilly. You told me to be careful on that one. So I'm glad I didn't buy the O'Reilly. But I am a massive Ryan O'Reilly hockey fan, and a massive Ryan O'Reilly, the human fan.
This one hurts. This one hurt.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. This was one of the first times we've ever had a trade where I've almost cried. Like, I was very close, to be honestly. It hurts because he represents that 2019 team. He won the Conn Smythe, which, for those of you who don't know, that's the best player in the postseason. So he won the Conn Smythe in our cup here. He brought the first cup here. We traded Tage Thompson for him, and it signified going all in, kind of. And that team started out horribly, and then they went on a run, and he was a big part of it. He's our captain. Trading your captain sucks, man. Like, that's horrible. There's hope that Braden Shen, because this is just who he is, said, who knows, maybe he'll come back in the offseason, because that's Braden Shen, and he just likes to troll people, I think, almost. And he could come back in the offseason. But as for now, he's gone. It hurts. Like, that one hurts. It gave me, this is my first thought when this happened, was one, fuck. Like, I literally texted you and said, fuck. I was so upset. But my second thought was, man, how great is it that the Cardinals don't ever have to do this? And part of that being that they don't trade franchise players. It doesn't happen. But part of the reason is, obviously, there's no salary cap in baseball. So you don't have to, like, if you're like in hell, in salary cap hell, you have to trade people, or you're just going to suck forever. But also, the fact that the Cardinals don't ever have to do this, it gave me like an appreciation. Like, man, imagine if we would have traded Yadier Molina, or imagine if we would have traded Albert Pujols
or Adam Wainwright.
Like Adam Wainwright, right? Like, I'm so glad that they've had to do that, but it had to happen, I feel like. But it really sucked. It was one of those things where you hear Ryan O'Reilly might get traded. Ryan O'Reilly's in talk. They're in talks to trade Ryan O'Reilly to the Leafs or to the Rangers or whoever, and you're like, well. Okay, but is it actually going to happen? And then at 10 p.m., fucking Doug Armstrong drops a bomb on me. The night before, they have a back-to-back, and they get smoked both games, by the way. That was ugly. But, yeah,
they're dead.
Sucks. I honestly just thank you to Ryan O'Reilly, like, an absolute legend.
Yes.
Bringing the first cup here, much like Tarasenko. I hope he comes back. I really do. But I'm not going to hold out hope for that. And I hope he goes and wins a cup in Toronto. But he won't, because the Maple Leafs stink. And all they do is lose in the first round. That's all they do. They're great in the regular season and lose in the first round of the postseason every year.
Yep. So that's all I got about hockey.
It sucks, man. It really
Here's
sucks.
what I will say. Thank you guys very much for listening. We're going to finish with the mailbag, Kale's favorite segment of the day or of the week. So I actually do love it.
Are you saying that like I don't like it?
No. No, that was genuine.
You said
there was no sarcasm.
That was not
no sarcasm.
It's not my favorite.
It is. You love it. But also, thank you guys for listening. If you can hit that subscribe. Hey, if you are still listening, which, by the way, we heard from a couple of you that you still were. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
If you are, hit that subscription button. We greatly appreciate you.
And this one was less of a tangent, I feel like.
Keep bringing the comments. We love them. We absolutely love them. Facebook, you can find us. Twitter. And then
let's get on with it. You've already said this.
Okay. Well, let's lead it off because you did thank Tarasenko not too long ago. And old Chunky Conspicuous came back. And he wanted to let you know that it was very well said about Tarasenko. So good.
Yeah, he's doing well, too. He's doing well in New York. So shout out, Vladdy.
Daniel Shu, who we talked about with Connor Jerpy last week. We will get to that.
Cooper Jerpy.
Cooper. My God, why did I call him Connor? Cooper. Last time I called him Cooper Herpy.
A lot of people call him Connor Jerpy. I don't know why it's Cooper, though.
Is there a brother? Is there a Connor Jerpy?
No, I think it's just Cooper and Connor are close.
Okay. Thank you for the response, guys. Great work on the podcast. Also, totally agree on the excitement about Chirpy. Will be really interesting to see how his arm angle plays more against advanced competition. To be fair, Daniel, it sounds like you know way more about Cooper Chirpy than I do. You're already talking about his arm angle. I just love the name. I didn't even realize. I thought he went to USC.
I would suggest anyone who hasn't watched any Cooper Chirpy just to go watch him throw at Oregon State last year. He's very unique. He's a very unique pitcher with a lot of upside and not very much downside. He's going to be a big.
Good.
He's one of those guys.
Were you confused on where to go the opposite with upside?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was wanting to say there, but I think he's one of those guys that you draft and you kind of know he's going to be a big leaguer. That could be a really, really good big leaguer, but his floor is kind of like a serviceable big leaguer, which is a good thing. That's what you want.
And our guy Daryl Dixon, he comments a lot. Thank you. Our favorite.
He's the one that was still watching.
Yeah, he's one of our favorite
crossbow. Stop doing
crossbow
that.
Guys.
That's not a crossbow. That's just a bow.
Oh, it's just like
you shoot crossbows.
I've never shot a crossbow. I've shot a bow and arrow before, but never a crossbow.
I've done.
Really been enjoying your Really been enjoying your podcast, guys. Thank you very, very much. Caleb reminds me of my younger self. I assume that is a massive compliment. And Mike's been killing it too. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate you. Double D. I hope O'Neal has a full year and hits tons of bombs, pun intended. So do we. By the way, so do we. We were expecting it. He's as close to a 5-tool player we have. I got attacked for calling him a 5-tool player. They told me he's a 4-tool player because his hit tool. What the fuck is a hit tool? It evidently doesn't mean he's a 5-tool. Like, first of all, maybe you're a hit tool.
Stop. First off, hit tool is a thing. It's a very commonly said thing. But
I don't like it. I don't like that.
Hit tool basically means batting average. Let's be honest here. He batted 290 in 2021.
Yeah. Thank you, Caleb. So maybe that guy was a hit tool.
He has an elite hit tool because his bat to ball skills are. When he hits the ball, his hit tool is about as
Can we stop
projectable as anybody in baseball.
Okay, but I agree with Daryl.
It really is.
I agree with Daryl. Yep.
That's what they call it.
I know, but like it just makes you sound like a hit tool. Rudy for Jack. This is Rich MLE. Rich Melly.
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, rooting for Jack to turn it around. Oh, and definitely pulling for Tyler. What a talent. Agreed. Love them both. We've said it before. I will continue to say it. In my mind, those are the two biggest wild cards on this team. And if they both put up the success that we believe that they can and that they will, this team is now goes from what I think is very good to great in the National League. I really do.
Also, maybe the two most talented of their respective groups, right? Like Tyler's definitely the most talented outfielder, I'd say. At least from what we've seen from him. Like Jordan Walker could be another level. We don't know yet. And then Jack of the pitching. Wayno's done some great things. He's never done what 2019 Jack did. He's never done that. So, yeah, obviously I love them both. I'm looking forward to watching them both because I think they've both got a lot to prove this year.
Blake Tade, the guy who you cannot get his name right, so I wanted to go ahead and get his name right. Blake, thank you. Like, poor fucking Blake, this poor guy. With the depth in the outfield, talking Burleson, Carlson, O'Neal, etc., isn't that driving their value down? I thought this was a really good question, and I didn't want to address it on there. I don't think so, because I will go back to the fact that if you've got four guys competing, but all the other organizations know that. I do believe that Tyler, the talk of trading Tyler in the offseason never made sense to me because his value as a player was down because of the injury questions and because is 2021 a repeatable year for Tyler O'Neal. Mm-hmm. So trading him never made sense to me at the end of 2022. With the other guys, Burleson, I think his value could be very high because we've seen what he's done in the minors. We don't know in the majors, but a lot of guys want those guys that are team controlled, ARB controlled, and projectable at the major league level as far as the hitting goes. With Carlson, we just talked about him. We're not sure. We don't know that yet. But I thought this was a really good question. So what are your thoughts on that?
My answer would be, what did Pablo Lopez get traded for?
That's very good.
The batting champ, right? In the American League. Everyone knew that the Miami Marlins had 7 guys. But at the end of the day, if you want that guy, you have to trade something for him. Like, if you want a guy on your team, it doesn't matter if the Marlins have 8 starting pitchers because they can keep all 8 of them if they want. You've got to trade to get the guy. So the Cardinals have all the leverage in that situation. Like, hey, you're not going to give me what I want for player X. I'm not going to throw a player's name out there. Just whatever outfielder. Fine, you don't get him. I'll keep him. Like, I don't have to give him to you, right? Like, you don't have. I think that's always kind of overblown, just because you don't have to give that player up. Like, you don't have to do it.
Right.
So if you have them in your organization and somebody else wants them, they're going to have to give you what you want, or you don't have to give them. That's how I view it, at least.
Okay, good. Let's get to Nick Campbell here. Caleb, incredibly well said on Tyler O'Neal. We'll see how tightly wound he is. I personally feel like he's trying to do too much, trying to live up to all of our unrealistic. Very good point there, Nick. By the way, unrealistic expectations.
I don't think they're unrealistic for him. That's the one player I will say I think the expectations for him, the high end ones, are very within reach because we've seen him do it, right? We've seen him do it. I will say I do think last year with the arbitration case, with starting out slow, with the injuries, I can definitely see where he was probably trying to press when he came back. But he was still playing well. Like he still had some huge moments for them. But I do agree that coming off not getting the big extension he wanted, because he did want to get a big extension last year. That was a big thing for him. And he didn't get that. And I think it was a thing, well, let me prove that I can do it again so I can get that long-term security and extension. And he didn't get that. And then he lost his ARB case. It was a lot of weirdness for Tyler O'Neill last year, but I could definitely see him pressing.
Okay. Next. Oops, sorry. Wrong thing. Next, Gold Star Thrifter. Evidently a tag popper.
Okay. Let this be the last one. I have to go to class.
Oh, we got some good ones. We'll get to the other ones later. That's fine. Last one. I have total confidence Tyler is getting it figured out. He is going to have a far better season than he did in 2021. That's a perfect one to end on.
A far better season than 2021. That'd have to be like 50 home runs. But a far better season than 2022. He had 35 in 2021 with a 900 OPS and batted 290.
It would be 40.
If he's better than that, he's shark there. Here's what I'll say. If he's better than that, he's the MVP of the league.
Okay. Boom. Hey guys, once again, thank you so much. We love the comments. Those of you that we didn't get to this time, we'll get to on the next one. We still have a couple more profiles to get to before we get to the pitching. I'm loving these because they are really getting me more in tune with everybody. We hope you're enjoying them from the comments. You seem to be. Please feel free to leave those. Don't forget you can find us Twitter. Hit the subscribe. I am now going to go make steak and eggs to get ready for Mardi Gras and then prepare for 8 a.m. Parades tomorrow at Mardi Gras.
That's good. I'm going to go to class and edit this probably because I won't be paying attention.
You're the best. You're the best. The professors have to love you.
They do love
anything
me,
else you want to get out? Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Appreciate you all. Thank you again so much. Take care of everybody. Stay safe. We will talk to you soon.